Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. On today's episode of Profiles in Ink, I welcome Phyllis Traylor of Texas. Phyllis, welcome.
Hi, Bill. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I'm honored to have you on here. The reason that I asked you to join us on Profiles in Ink is because of the overwhelming amount of reviews and comments and praise that I had heard from students, not only in Texas. A lot of them are based in Texas because that's where you are, but I've heard so many great things about the compassionate heart that you lead with, and of course, the skills that you know and that you teach while in Texas. So I want to talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
You know, I think most people probably recognize your name from the training courses that you offer for Texas-specific notary, and I'd love to get into that here in just a minute. But on Profiles in Ink, I like to go a little bit deeper, kind of an origin story about what attracted you to the notary business. Do you mind if we start there?
Oh, no, not at all. Interesting enough, at one time I was a realtor and I also had my broker's license, but this is when I was in Oklahoma. And so, of course, with real estate transactions, there's a lot of documents that need to be notarized. So while in Oklahoma, I did become a notary. And it was a necessity at the time. We needed somebody in the office to be a notary, so I did it. But I'm gonna be honest, I did it with no training.
Mm-hmm.
I got my commission. When somebody needed a document notarized, that's what a signature notarized, I would do it. But you know, when I think back to how I was doing it, because it was so easy to get the commission, I'm like, I cannot believe I operated like that for 4 years, and it's so easy to do that when there's no mandatory training. And I think that's where my passion comes from in wanting people to know what they're doing. Even though it's not required that you train, you still need to know what you're doing because it's so easy to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And I think, it's just so important. If we treat it as something that's not important, then so will the public treat it as something that's not important. That's not important. It's treated a lot of times like you just stamp and sign. That's it. And there's so much more to it. And I think that's where my passion comes from. I want people to understand how important the duties of a notary public are.
Isn't that the
If that
truth?
makes
I think it's so easy to discount this business as, just walking into a bank and getting a stamp for free. When people consumer have that mindset about it, but there is so much more to this. We're transferring wealth. People are making life and death decisions on this paperwork. And if we don't honor it, no one else will either.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty huge. But that still said, and I love talking to people who are passionate about this business because this has been a life-changing business for me. I love it. I can nerd out and geek out on this all day long. And I love talking to people I can do that with. But still, there has to be something more than just signing and stamping papers too, right? So
Of
what made
course.
you stick around with the notary business?
Well, I think it was my I decided to start. Um, this isn't my first business that I've ventured into. So I was already heavy into networking. I belong to several different networking organizations. And it was like when I made the transition to become a mobile notary, and I would introduce my business to people within my networking organizations, I could see an immediate interest too. So I'm like, oh, maybe I've launched onto something here. And another thing was, even though there's so many notaries out there and a lot of mobile notaries out there, the public still is not aware that mobile notaries exist.
Mm-hmm.
So when I tell people what I do, they're like, I never heard of that. A notary that will travel to you. So there is definitely a need and an interest. And I could see it as a viable business. In fact, like I said, I've tried other business ventures, and my husband finally told me when I was doing this, he said, finally, you found something you can make money at.
I can so relate.
So now I have his support.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think you hit some major key points here is there are so many people that do not know that mobile notaries exist. That is, I think, it's an opportunity for sure. It's also a challenge. And one of the jokes I make is that, in the United States, we have 4.5 million notaries, but you can't find one when you need one. So when you step up to the game and you hustle and you really respect and honor this business for what it is and treat it like a business, regular business practices, and you apply that to the notary business, things really start to happen for you, right?
I couldn't agree more. And that's what I always tell my students. This is not a hobby. This is a business, so you have to treat it as a business. Some people just want to treat it as something where they can make a little extra money. And if you treat it like something where you can make a little extra money, then that's all you're going to do is make a little extra money.
Right.
You have to treat it as a business. So you're going to get out of it what you put into it. There's work involved. So you just can't get your commission and say, okay, now I'm ready. Well, let me learn how to do loan signings. Okay, I got my certification for loan signings. Now I'm ready.
Yeah.
No, you have to go out there and you have to make things happen. And nobody can do that for you. People are always looking for shortcuts, but you have to put in the work, the sweat, yourself in order to build your business. And if you don't do that, then no, you're not going to make any money. I can't guarantee how much money you're going to work, but I can guarantee that if you put in the hard work and effort, you will make some money.
I think that's one of the things I love about this business more than anything. I have a slogan for my business. It's flexible schedule, unlimited income, and legitimate business. This is just one of those old fashioned businesses where if you work, you get paid. And I
Exactly.
love that. And I was craving that. I think you and I have probably been in the same boat with all different kinds of ideas and dreaming big and chasing rabbits and shiny things. All of that was really great. And I love that I can now do that in this business. The notary business, it's a large umbrella that really lets you do some fun stuff underneath it, under our brand as a notary. And I want to talk about that a little bit because you, I think, are epitomizing. I thought I was a hustler. I thought I was out there making some stuff happen. And then I looked at your website and I see all the different stuff that you're doing. So can you talk a little bit about kind of some of those multiple streams of revenue or the extra values adds that you do in your business?
Well, one of the things that I do, I'm a Texas certified process server, and it's something that I enjoy doing. I've been doing that now for about 6 or 7 years. It's been a while, and it's to me it goes hand in hand with being a notary because of the flexibility. You have to serve these documents to somebody, so you have to travel to the location just like you have to travel to a location to complete a mobile notary. So you just add that to your schedule,
Mm-hmm.
and while you're out, you can go serve, some simple documents, and at the same time, you're making money.
Yeah, it seems like a real symbiotic fit for this business for sure.
I mean, it really is. I
Yeah.
mean, it really is. And I was surprised, because a lot of people are like, well, that's not safe. Well, as a certified process server in Texas, I can't speak for all the other states, but in Texas, all we are doing is serving civil documents.
Mm.
So I pick and choose which assignments I'm going to accept. If it's a restraining order or something like that, I'll pass on it.
Mm.
Because I do safety first. So I'm very conscious about that. I also do, which I don't even have listed on my website. Somebody just found me one time and asked me would I proctor tests.
Oh,
So I do that, and I mean that pays pretty well. I was surprised. I was able to name our price with that,
wow.
and yeah, they had me fill out a intake form, and I just go to the facility when it's time for the students to take their test and proctor the test. Make sure everybody is who they say they are. Everybody has a ID,
Well,
and I get paid by the hour.
what a natural fit, right? You're just
Yeah,
verifying ID like we do every
that's
day
all
in
I'm
general
doing is
ledger.
verifying ID and making sure that nobody's cheating on the test.
I love it.
And like I said, I get paid by the hour, so and I get to name my price. So I really like that.
Pretty sweet
So I
gig.
mean, that's because people like notaries. The fact that notaries are ex so-called experts at verifying identification. So there's more stuff that you can do with that, like the test proctoring, also the Form I-9s. You can do the Form I-9s because it's not a form that requires a notarization. They just require that that person's identity be verified. So you can
Exactly.
serve as an authorized representative and do a Form I-9. And you don't have to notarize anything, you don't have to log anything, but it's just an extra revenue of
Extra
income.
revenue stream. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
And it's all part of going out there, going from place to place, doing your appointments. So it's just another appointment while you're out.
Exactly. Exactly. I love your approach to this. So you've got I-9s, you've got proctoring, which I never even thought of. I love that idea. We've got the loan signings, obviously, that you do,
Loan signings,
general notary work,
apostles. Yeah,
and what else?
apostles.
You've got the apostle service
Yes, the
going
apostle
on too. That's
service.
a whole other
That's a whole other
bag.
course.
Yeah.
People keep asking me, Phyllis, when are you going to start teaching an apostle course? And I just haven't gotten to that point
It's
yet.
on the list
But I
somewhere,
need
right?
to. Yes, yes, I do want to do that because there's a lot of people interested in that, and that is another stream of income that could be added very easily. It's a service that you can offer because there is some people say, well, all you have to do is go to the Secretary of State's website to learn what you're doing. But it's just like anything else. All you have to do is go to the Secretary of State's website to learn how to be a notary. But once you start reading the verbiage that you're not, used to, then there's nobody there while you're reading this information to ask the questions
Yeah.
to. And that's where the trainers come in. So, the training is needed.
Absolutely. Well, anytime a government writes a document, it is clear as mud. And there's so much gray area. There's so many things that aren't said. The law of silence is huge in our industry. So there's so
Very
many,
much.
it's so helpful to have a guide, a mentor, a trainer, an instructor, somebody to kind of just shine a light for you and kind of show the way. Here's what we did. Here's what you want to avoid. I fell in that hole. Don't fall in that hole. So I love that you've taken this on and you've really taken this on. You've got a training website. So this is a perfect little segue into the training programs that you offer for Texas specific notaries. Is that right?
That's correct.
Right. Now,
Mhm.
so you kind of talked about what your passion was in the beginning of this call because you're passionate about, which really comes down to inspiring people to take this business seriously and to really own it and become the expert in their state, right?
become an expert at what they're doing? I think it is, I personally believe, that there's enough work out there for everybody. We don't have to do the backbiting or, putting people down or anything like that. I think there's more than enough work for everybody. Um, and I think that we owe it to the industry to get the proper training and do the job right, so that when we do go and ask for more, more money for doing this, that people will feel good about it, because it is an important service that we provide. But, we have to do our part too to keep it at a level of professionalism.
Yeah.
We don't want to downplay it as just, like I said, like just a hobby or something to do to make some extra money. It really is a profession as far as I'm concerned. And that's how I treat it.
I love that. I think there's the need to raise the bar. And I love that you touched on, if we're going to go and lobby and fight for higher notary fees, we have to make sure that we're treating this as the business it is. And really, the word that keeps coming to me when I try to think about this is reverence for the role that we play in this, which is just like a level of absolute respect for the role that we play, because it is critical. It's critical to transactions. There are some things that can't happen without a notarization. And when you
Exactly.
when you weigh the weight of some of those decisions, I mean, powers of attorney where somebody else gets the right to make life and death decisions, or transferring real estate, or investments and retirement funds, that's a huge deal. And we really need to appreciate that. And owning, and I call it the notary imperative. It is our imperative to get to the expert status, so we know what we can and can't do. In fact, you said that. I was going to ask you what your best piece of advice is for a new notary public, and you said just that. I'm going to let you answer it. What is your best piece of advice for a new notary?
You need to learn your notary laws. You need to learn what you can and cannot do. I mean, it's just imperative. You need training. You need some professional constructive training. You don't need to just read the materials provided by the Secretary of State. You actually need some hands-on training, because that's going to make all the difference in the world. Because with that hands-on training, then you get the chance to interact with somebody that can answer questions, somebody that's been doing this a little bit longer than you have.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, nothing, I don't care how smart you are, it cannot compete with somebody who has experience.
You cut that learning curve in half. It's just a fraction of what it is if you're trying to do it on your own. And the beautiful thing about this, right, Philip? I mean, you probably had to do it. I had to do it. We figured it out on our own. We found a way to succeed without having mentors sometimes. But having a mentor, having an instructor in training, I mean, you'll exponentially succeed faster than any of us ever did.
I'm telling you, that's what helped me in the loan signing business. I mean, once I found Carol Ray,
Yeah.
I was so lost in the beginning. Even though I had a real estate background, I was still so lost as to even all the different language and the acronyms being used in the loan signing. Like what are fax backs? What's a Dropbox? None of that made any sense to me.
Mhm.
And I would take, these online courses, and I was still lost. But then I took Carol Ray's course, and she just broke everything down for me. And I was like,
Mhm.
wow, she is really good at this. And I mean, it's just my business just took off from there because of the way she had put her course together.
Isn't that amazing? So sometimes you'll hear the same thing maybe 5 or 6 times, and then the one teacher that just frames it in the way that makes sense to you, it just clicks. And Carol has had that impact on thousands of other students as well. I'm so honored to collaborate with her as well. And speaking of that, you are like the only certified notary to pro trainer outside of her course, right?
Yes, she does. She has allowed me to teach her Notary to Pro course here in Texas.
Wow.
And so I'm very honored to do that. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, yeah, I'm the only person she's allowed to do that. And again, I feel honored to do that. And a lot of people ask me, well, why are you teaching Notary to Pro? Why don't you create your own course? And I'm thinking, why recreate the wheel? I mean, her course is the best one out there. It covers everything. To me, it's a no-brainer. Just share what helped make me successful with other people.
Right.
And that's what I do.
I love that. And then you have your Texas specific trainings as well, too. Can you tell me just a little bit about those and how they work?
So I do what I call a Texas Notary Workshop, which is just the basics. We go over what you need to become a Texas notary, uh, the fees that you can offer, well, the required fees by the state. Also, I emphasize in the training how your the biggest thing I try to emphasize in that training is that whenever you have questions, your questions should be addressed to the Texas Secretary of State, not to Facebook. Because I see a lot of people, asking questions on Facebook and they're state specific questions. And so I want to emphasize that you need to learn the rules and regulations that govern Texas notaries because that's what you are. You are a Texas commissioned notary, and so
Mhm.
you have to learn the rules and regulations that apply to Texas. So learn. I teach them what they can and what they can't do, and what they need to do in order to be successful and stay out of trouble. And
Right.
that's the biggest thing. Uh, it is for new notaries and also people seasoned notaries because you can get complacent, because you're doing this all the time. There might be some new stuff that you didn't keep up with, or just maybe a refresher. And I tell you, even in my when I have new notaries, even in the basic course, I can see light bulbs going off while
Yeah.
I'm teaching the course. Because I know I've hit something that they had forgot about or they didn't even know.
Yeah.
Something as simple as when you're filling out your notary journal in Texas, you can't include if the person used a Texas driver's license for ID, you cannot include the driver's license number. And I will have people that, notaries, seasoned notaries, that bring all their notary supplies to the class with them,
Mhm.
and they're showing off their notary journal and they got all these Texas ID numbers in there. And I tell them in class, you got to redact all of that.
Yeah. Wow.
That's against the law.
Yeah.
You have to get rid of that.
Yeah.
They're like,
Oh,
I didn't know that.
what? Yeah,
I've
exactly.
been doing this for years. I
Well,
know.
that's the challenge that we have, right? Especially if you're in a state without mandated training. But even in the states where there is mandated training, what we are taught is how to pass a test. And that is, I think, probably one of the most frustrating things for me. And that's why I don't include a test in my Sign and Thrive course,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want people to think that all you have to do is pass a test and then you know everything and you can go out in the world. And that's really how most, and it's not just notary specific, right? That's just how the world works right now.
Exactly, it
Pass the
is.
test, we got our certification, and now we're unstoppable. And
You
I'm a
know,
huge proponent of these of Kaizen, constant, continuous improvement. Always be the student. And I love that you've got classes and you're so welcoming to some of the senior notaries, because I think have you faced this intimidation from notaries that have been around for 15, 20 years and they just feel intimidated coming to a new course like this to get the further
uh,
education?
I haven't, because what I do is my training is very interactive. So like I said, I have a basic course and then I have an advanced course. And it's very interactive because um, I'm learning too.
Hmm.
You know, even though I'm the instructor, I always learn something new. You know, because I like the classes are small, so they can be interactive and we can share with each other. And what I like is that, you know, the students feel comfortable enough in that environment that they start sharing their experiences.
Yeah.
And I mean, these are real world experiences, so you get to learn from that. So I encourage my seasoned people when I'm teaching, you know, I'll say, okay, this is how I do something. How have you been doing it?
Oh,
You
I
know,
love
so
that.
people can have other points of view, knowing that just because I'm the instructor, that doesn't mean you have to do it my way, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. You know, I'm huge into that too. I love this, Phyllis. You know, multiple perspectives. There's always different ways of doing anything. And sometimes you can take a piece of this one, a piece of that one, a piece of that one, and make your own. And that's really what this is all about. I love that you're so warm and welcoming. And I have a feeling, Phyllis, that's why so many people have come to me and just talked about how wonderful your training is, but also, like I said in the beginning, your compassionate heart and your willingness to help so many people. Phyllis, if people want to learn more about you and your training programs and the services you provide, where should they go? To the Texas Notary Training Academy.com?
They can go to TexasNotaryTrainingAcademy.com or they can go to mysanantoniomobilenotary.com.
Love that. Thank you so much, guys. And I'll post that down in the show notes today. Phyllis Traylor, thank you so much for spending so much time and sharing so much of yourself with us today.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.